Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and I'm going to be doing an Kairyu-Shin deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is a really fun deck to play because you can summon out all sorts of amazing monsters like Ocean Dragon Lord Kairyu-Shin, which is an incredible new boss monster that we just got out of Duels from the Deep. This deck is also really fun to play with because you can play super old school cards like a Legendary Ocean that make this deck work incredibly well. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron, along with test stands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of the Ocean Dragon Lord Kairyu-Shin. This card is an absolutely crazy boss monster that while Umi is on the field, each player can only control one face-up non-water monster, and if a player controls 2 or more, they must send some to the graveyard so they only control 1. That is a crazy powerful effect that basically is a walking rivalry of warlords, and since we're only summoning water in the deck except for 1 card that we play in the extra deck, this card is absolutely insane in this deck. It also has the ability that during the main phase, you can add from your deck to your hand an Umi, a Kairyu-Shin spell or trap, or a Sea Stealth spell or trap from your deck to your hand, which is an incredible effect to be able to grab any of your really powerhouse spell or trap cards like Kairyu-Shin's Dark Reef. We then play a single copy of Mega Fortress Whale. This card is a great OTK piece because it has the ability that if Umi is on the field, you can activate this effect that your water monsters can attack directly this turn. That is, every single water monster that you have on the field can attack directly, which is a really insane effect because this card can help you OTK your opponent extremely easily. And during your opponent's battle phase, quick effect, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls and destroy it, which is really good to combo with your Ocean Dragon Lord because this card can pop the one monster that they have on the field. And if this card on the field is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can either add to your hand or special summon a water warrior monster from your deck or graveyard. And you can only use each effect of this card once per turn. We then play 3 copies of Warrior of Atlantis. This is basically just extra copies of a Legendary Ocean, because this card has the ability you can discard this card to the graveyard to add a Legendary Ocean from your deck to your hand, which is a really good effect to be able to grab your copies of a Legendary Ocean so you can start summoning out your monsters. We then play 3 copies of Electric Jellyfish. Electric Jellyfish is a crazy powerful walking negate with the ability that you can send an Umi from your hand deck or face up from your field to the graveyard to special summon a water monster from your hand, which I usually don't use that effect on this card, but it has a really insane effect that when your opponent activates a monster effect or a spell card effect, while Umi is on the field, quick effect, you can negate the effect, and then you can make this card gain 600 attack and defense points, which will boost this card up while a Legendary Ocean's on the field to 2200, which is really insane. We then play a single copy of Doomkraken. Doomkraken is a really awesome new card that helps out this deck a lot with the ability that if Umi is on the field, quick effect, you can target a water monster that you control, except a Doomkraken, and a monster that your opponent controls, special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, return that monster that you control to your hand, and if you do that, destroy that opponent's monster, which is a pretty good effect to give you a little bit of spot removal to get rid of a card on the opponent's side of the field. It also has the ability that when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can return this card to your hand, and if you do, negate that attack, and you can only use the effect of this card once per turn, so you can actually use this card over and over again, which is really awesome. I then play a single copy of Maiden of the Aqua. Maiden of the Aqua is really good in the deck because you can special summon it off your copy of Kairyu-Shin's Dark Reef, and it has the ability that becomes Umi while it's on the field, which can help out with a bunch of your cards like your copy of Kairyu-Shin, which is just really nice because for your copy of Kairyu-Shin's Dark Reef to activate, you have to send a face-up Umi to the graveyard, so by playing this card at 1, you basically get your Umi right back on the field to make your effects live again. We then play 2 copies of Terror King Salmon. Terror King Salmon is really good in the deck because it's a 2400 attack point, level 5 fish monster, which comes in very handy with a legendary ocean because it will bump it down to a level 4, so you can normal summon this card out to the field and attack for 2600 when a legendary ocean is on the field, which is a really awesome effect. You can also special summon these cards off your copy of Fish Sonar or your copies of Kairyu-Shin's Dark Reef, so this card comes in very handy and is why I'm playing 2 copies of this card in the deck. It also helps to go into your rank 4s because this card becomes level 4 when a legendary ocean's on the field, so you can go into your copies of number 4 or any of the other rank 4s that we play in the extra deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Terraforming. Terraforming is so we can get to a legendary ocean extremely quickly in this deck. We're going to be playing a single copy of Fury of Kairyu-Shin. Fury of Kairyu-Shin lets us add a torrential tribute from our deck to our hand, and if a water monster or monsters you control will be destroyed by a card effect, then you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. This card is great to search off of Kairyu-Shin because basically when you add this card to hand, you can then search your copy of torrential and protect your own monsters from that torrential that you just searched with this card. We then play a single copy of Rage of Kairyu-Shin. Rage of Kairyu-Shin is a good card as well because if Umi is on the field, you can target a monster your opponent controls up to the number of water monsters you control whose original level are 5 or higher and destroy them. And if you do, the zones that they were in cannot be used until the end of the next turn, which is really good to help you lock down the board. So this card is a great one of to search in this deck. We then play a single copy of Sea Stealth 2. Sea Stealth 2 is a really good card to search off Kairyu-Shin as well because it becomes Umi while on the field or in the graveyard. And your opponent cannot target water monsters you control with non-water monsters effects, which is a pretty good effect to help your monsters add an extra layer of protection. It also has the ability at the start of the battle phase, you can special summon from your hand or graveyard one monster that mentions Umi or is a water normal monster in defense position, but destroy it at the end of the battle phase, which is a pretty good effect to just get you an additional monster on the field, especially to protect your board. We then play 3 copies of Foolish Burial Goods. Foolish Burial Goods is a really good 3 of the deck because you can actually send from your deck to the graveyard your copies of Ice Barrier, which can actually search out a bunch of cards in this deck. So that's why we're actually playing the Foolish Burial Goods, because this card comes in very handy. We then play 3 copies of a Legendary Ocean. This card is so awesome. Hopefully it gets a holo printing, because right now it only comes in common, which is just absolutely insane to me how important this card is to this deck, but it's only a common. But this card has the ability, this card's name is treated as Umi, and it reduces the level of all water monsters in both players' hands and on the field by 1, and all water monsters gain 200 attack and defense points, which is really good to help us get that extra boost and let us normal summon out that copy of Kairyu-Shin. So this card is extremely important in the deck, and we're trying to get to this card and Kairyu-Shin as quickly as possible, which you guys will see in the test stands. We then play 3 copies of the new broken support Fish Sonar. This card is absolutely insane, and you got to play 3 copies of this card because it has the ability to add a level 7 or lower monster from your deck to your hand that mentions Umi or is a water normal monster. Then, if Umi is on the field, you can special summon out a water normal monster from your deck. This card is absolutely insane comboed with a Legendary Ocean because you can search out your copy of Kairyu-Shin and then normal summon it out to your side of the field while also special summoning out a copy of your Terra King Salmon, which is just really cool to be able to get 2 monsters on the field by just activating 1 spell card. This card is absolutely nuts in the deck and a definite 3 of. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. This deck is a really good lockdown deck, so you don't super need the extra deck. You're basically just special summoning out a bunch of water monsters to your side of the field and going in for game, or just normal summoning out a copy of Kairyu-Shin and controlling the board. But usually you don't need the extra deck, so this card comes in very handy to help you dig into the deck to get your pieces, so you can establish that really awesome lock with Kairyu-Shin and your copy of your Legendary Ocean, which is really good just to get it on your side of the field. We then also play 3 copies of Pot of Duality, because normally you're just normal summoning out the copy of Kairyu-Shin during your turn, and then using Dark Reef on the opponent's turn, so you really don't need to special summon either on your turn. So this card comes in very handy to have the ability to excavate the top 3 of your deck and add one of those 3 from your deck to your hand, which is a really awesome effect to be able to add one of those 3 from your from the 3 that you excavated to your hand. But this card does lock you out of special summoning the turn you activate this card. So this is a really good card to help us dig for 3 and be able to get the exact piece that we need to be able to lock down the opponent. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing some really insane traps. We're going to start off with 2 copies of Torrential Tribute. Torrential Tribute is a really good 2-up in the deck because it lets you activate this card that when a monster or monsters is special summoned or summoned at all, you destroy all monsters on the field. This card is a really good defensive card to be able to just blow the board of all the monsters that your opponent puts on the field, which is just really good to help us go in for an OTK. We then play 2 copies of Ice Barrier. I played 2 copies of this card because I actually don't mind drawing into this card because it has a really neat effect that when an attack is declared involving your opponent's monster, change that opponent's monster's attack to 0, negate its effects, and also it cannot change its battle position, which is a pretty good effect to be able to just stop the opponent and be able to lock down a monster. It also has a really good effect that you can banish this card from your graveyard, send a level 5 or higher water monster from your deck to the graveyard, and then you can add a water monster from your graveyard to your hand. Also, until the end of the next turn after this card resolves, you can't special summon monsters except for water, which is not that big of a deal because that's all we're summoning anyways besides 1 card in the extra deck. We're then playing 3 copies of Kairyu-Shin's Dark Reef. This card is one of the other absolutely broken new support cards. This card is our win condition because it has the ability that you send an Umi you control to the graveyard to special summon up to 2 monsters with different names from your hand or deck, which usually is always going to be special from the deck that mention Umi or our water normal monsters in defense position. Then, if your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon any number of level 6 or lower water normal monsters from your hand or deck, and until the end of the next turn after this card resolves, you can't special summon monsters except for water monsters. Again, not that big of a deal. This card is absolutely insane in this deck because you can use this card to be able to send a legendary ocean from your side of the field to the graveyard, your copy of Sea Stealth to your graveyard, or even use your copy of a Maiden of the Aqua to send that card to the graveyard to be able to resolve this card. Now, the neat thing about this card is that you can special summon out your copy of Kairyu-Shin and Mega Fortress Whale, which you guys will see in the test hand, and if your opponent has a monster on the field, you can special summon out both copies of your Terror King Salmon, which will get you 4 monsters on the field for the price of 2, which is just crazy. This card is absolutely busted in this deck and such a good card, especially for a rare card. This card is just really, really good. I could easily see this card being an ultra rare in the set because of how good it is. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a lot of 3-ups in here because we are playing an extravagance build. You can change out the extravagance for prosperity if you want to play other cards in the extra deck, but I really like this lineup because in testing, I don't go into the extra deck all that much. So this is basically just toolbox for cards I could use if I needed to. So we're going to start off with 3 copies of number 4. This card is just really, really good in any water deck. It's basically like a mini copy of Dragoons because all face-up monsters on the field become water, and then once per turn during the main phase, quick effect, you can destroy a water monster that your opponent controls, and if you do inflict damage to your opponent equal to half that monster's attack it had on the field, which is kind of like a Dragoon effect where it can pop a monster on the field and deal damage to the opponent. And if this XZ summon card is destroyed, then you can special summon out stealth spawns from your extra deck equal to the number of materials this card had on the field, and then attach 1 water monster to your graveyard to each of those special summon monsters as a material, which is pretty good. We're then going to play 3 copies of Stealth Spawn. Stealth Spawn is just really good to combo with your number 4 to be able to get you additional monsters on the field. You don't use them all that often, but just in case you do, they're here. We play 3 copies of Bahamut Shark. Bahamut Shark is so that we can summon out our copies of Totally Awesome, because you just detach a material from this card and then you get to summon out Totally Awesome. And this is a card that I do summon out the most in the deck as Bahamut and Toad to be able to give me an additional negate to make sure that my plays are going to go through. And then finally 3 copies of Double A Zeus. Double A Zeus is just really good and our only non-water monster we play in the deck to be able to blow the entire board. So this card is really, really good in the deck to be able to just get rid of the board if we do keep it off of our copy of Extravagance, but I don't make it all that often. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to be able to play. I'm really excited to see what this deck does. I have a lot of different builds for this deck, and this one is just super consistent, and it's just really, really fun to be able to play, because this deck is just really, really insane. The support is really good, and it's just really fun to play. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can come part of notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys, and definitely be on the lookout for test hands. See you later, guys.